Today I'm going to be going over my very simple wood gas demonstration stove. This is a very small coffee can. All I did was drill a dozen eighth inch holes in the bottom and another 8 or 10 around the side. These are the primary air inlet holes. The reason I put them both on the bottom and the side is because when the fuel burns down, it tends to clog up these holes. Basically with wood gas, what you want is a low oxygen environment in the combustion zone, which is down here in the bottom third or so. And so the primary air comes in through the bottom, and as the fuel heats up, it creates a stack effect, a chimney effect. So the warm air rises, and as the warm air rises, secondary air is brought in through the upper holes. There's 8 or so 1/4 inch holes drilled around the top of the stove. And the secondary air provides enough oxygen to completely ignite the wood gas. And when it does that, it burns everything and makes a very efficient smoke-free fire. One of the things I like to use is some hardware cloth or screen and just lay it on the bottom. You can see this is bent up so that it forms little legs to keep the fuel off the bottom to help prevent clogging of the holes. So it's not entirely necessary, but I've found that it does help. Because this is such a small can, we need some very small fuel. And I've broken up some sticks here. I'll just drop those in. And this will just be enough to get us started. You always want to keep your fuel load below the secondary holes by a fair amount so that so physics can work. So we'll start this fire by using another fire. And one thing I would not recommend is using paper to start your fire. Paper tends to leave ashes that clog up those primary holes. One of the things I like to do to help get the fire started is to increase the height of my chimney, which will increase the draft and help air get moving a little more quickly. And this is just another wood gas can. It can be anything. It can be some kind of a shroud just to increase the height of your stove. So we're getting started going here, and I'm going to very slowly add some more wood. This is what they call a top loading updraft design. Okay, we've built our fire up so it's nice and hot. I'm going to take the chimney off now. See if it'll keep going. You can see now that there's a little smoke starting. Not quite hot enough. I'm going to put our chimney back on, get it going a bit. So there it is. You can see now that the secondary air holes around the top are doing their thing because that's where the fire is. That's where the combustion is happening. That's where all the heat is. Okay, I'm going to try a few other fuels that I have kicking around here. Some dried pistachio shells. This is such a small stove, you have to load it pretty slowly or it will just not be hot enough. Let's give it a little chimney. That chimney really helps, keeps the air moving and the combustion happening. Oh, that's beautiful. Look at that. You can really see those jets doing their thing. Every time you put a load of fuel in, it cools the combustion off and things die down a little bit. So slow and steady. And if you get impatient, put a little more on, put your chimney back on, and watch the magic. Put this nifty little two-piece rack together. One slot slides into the other. So let's put our dinner on, and you can see that that really cools things off and creates some smoke. Let's take a closer look at how that flame's going. It's still going. It's going real well, but I don't like the amount of smoke that's coming off the top. Well, I'm afraid we loaded it a little too fast and we lost the flame, but we have a cure. There she goes. A real quick hit. Everything's back. Got some dried up pumpkin seeds. See how well they do. I'm going to let that burn out while I show you something else. Our sample stove worked pretty well, although it's a bit finicky, but it does get the point across. This is a wood gas stove that was actually designed for camping. It's made by woodgascampstove.com, and last I looked they weren't producing this anymore, but it's probably made by someone else. The only difference between this one and the can you just saw is that this is a can inside of a can, and it has a powered fan so that it actually blows air up through the primary holes, which are, I don't know if you could see those, way deep inside. There's some small holes around the bottom perimeter, and there's larger secondary holes, secondary air holes around the top. And it comes with a little battery pack, although it's kind of inconvenient when you're camping to deal with a battery pack. It would be very interesting to use a Peltier junction power supply on this. As soon as it heats up, it'll create its own power. So what you do is start it out on high. You can hear that fan starting to go. I'm going to get this started with some wood pellets. One of the tricks I learned is to get this started with some wood pellets that have been soaked in alcohol, a little plastic bag. I've used this a bunch of times camping and it really works quite well. One match and done. These haven't been soaking very long, so we'll see how they work. So the alcohol starts burning first, obviously, but hopefully that's enough to get the combustion started for the rest of the fuel load. Again, this is a top-loading updraft design. I'm going to put a few of my wood chips in here. Again, we only want to fill it up about halfway. It needs to stay well below the secondary air inlets. So I've loaded it with a few more sticks and twigs just to get it going, and you can see it's starting to show signs of life as a gasifier. Wood gas is being generated below, and the air is being forced up around the perimeter inside the can, inside a can, and the secondary air comes out these holes on the top, and that's where the combustion happens. Maybe I'll try some pistachio shells, see how they do. Maybe a few more pumpkin seeds. And just for kicks, I've got some dried up peach pits. Let's throw a few of those in, see how it does. I've actually had a dung fire in here. Raccoon poo. I scooped it up out of my garage where they decided to make a little nest. It wasn't a very robust fire, but it was a fire. It did burn. Very exciting. Okay, the outside of this is reasonably cool. I can touch it. It's still warm though. And I'm going to turn this down to the low speed. And that gives us a nice slow steady burn. Put the grate on. And we can start cooking. As we saw before, that cooled things down enough to create a little bit of smoke, but it's still burning pretty well. So we've got a good fire with multiple fuels in here right now. If we want to pick up the burn a little bit, we can just plug it into the high-speed port. Get it cranking, get yourself a beverage. Alright, that's a good looking flame. Let's put it back to low speed. Those peach pits are looking mighty fine in there. Nice and black. Getting charred. Decomposing. Probably can't see it too well. So I'm going to put my water on. I've got 2 cups, half a liter of water, and I'm going to time how long it takes to boil that water. We're 2.5 minutes into our burn and the water is well boiling. So this is a very hot, very efficient stove, and I'm very happy with it. I wish I could tell you where to get one, but what I can tell you is that you can learn a whole lot about wood gas and a lot of other renewable energy technologies in my book, The Homeowner's Energy Handbook. Check it out. The Homeowner's Energy Handbook is 50% efficiency and 50% renewable energy. You'll come away with a good understanding of the technologies behind solar, wind, hydro, biodiesel, wood gas, and biogas. There's an entire chapter on wood gas where you can learn about combustion, gasifier cook stoves like we just did, stages of gasification, how to use and filter wood gas, how to power up your vehicle with wood gas, different types of gasifiers, and most importantly, be safe. Wood gas is primarily carbon monoxide, so you need to take proper precautions to protect yourself. It's a great story about a father and son who built a wood gas powered truck together. You can read about their story. And you can get specific instructions to build the sample gasifier that we just looked at. Thanks for watching all, and don't forget to buy the book. It helps feed me and my family and keeps these videos coming. Hope you like it. I just dropped some coconut shell into the fire, and it burns great. Look at it go. I am liking the coconut shell, so get creative and see what burns. Good luck all.